Good afternoon. Thank you for coming, everyone. As you know, we're on the leading edge of a coalition military operations designed to enforce United Nations Security Council Resolution 1973 in Libya. The goals of these initial operations are essentially twofold. First, to prevent further attacks by regime forces on Libyan citizens and opposition groups, especially in and around Benghazi. And second, to degrade the regime's capability to resist the no-fly zone we are implementing under that United Nations resolution. To that end, earlier this afternoon, over 110 Tomahawk cruise missiles fired from both U.S. and British ships and submarines struck more than 20 integrated air defense systems and other air defense facilities ashore. On the slide to my left, back one slide, please. On the slide to my left, you can see the rough locations of the military targets struck. You will notice that most of them are on or near the coast, a fact which made their destruction vital to the enforcement of a no-fly zone, since so much of the air activity we have seen and so much of the regime's military efforts have been in this part of the country. These strikes were carefully coordinated with our coalition partners. The targets themselves were selected based on our collective assessment that these sites either pose a direct threat to the coalition pilots or, through use by the regime, pose a direct threat to the people of Libya. Because it is night over there, it will be some time before we have a complete picture of the success of these strikes. I want to stress, however, that this is just the first phase of what will likely be a multi-phased military operation designed to enforce the United Nations resolution and deny the Libyan regime the ability to use force against its own people. This is an international military effort, urged by the Libyan people themselves and by other Arab nations. We are joined by several other allied partners and are committed to supporting their efforts. Indeed, we continue to receive commitments of support and participation in leadership from both Arab and European partners. In these early days, the operation will be under the operational command of General Carter Ham, Commander U.S. Africa Command, and the commander of Joint Task Force Odyssey Dawn, which is the name of this operation, is Admiral Sam Locklear, who is embarked on board USS Mount Whitney in the Mediterranean. We anticipate the eventual transition of leadership to a coalition commander in the coming days. That said, the U.S. military has and will continue to use our unique capabilities to create the conditions from which we and our partners can best enforce the full measure of the UN mandate. Our mission right now is to shape the battle space in such a way that our partners may take the lead in both execution. As the President has said, we are not going to use force to go beyond a well-defined goal, specifically the protection of the civilians in Libya. And with that, I will take your questions.
Lita.
Hi, Admiral Lolita Baldor with AP. Can you give us a little bit more clarity on the strikes and the targets, including perhaps just a bit more on what exactly U.S. ships, submarines, et cetera, did? And was there anything beyond the cruise missiles that is being done by the United States?
Both from U.S. Ships and submarines and a U.K. submarine. Total 110, maybe 112 Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. Once again, targeted specifically at taking down the critical nodes of the integrated air defense system, which includes surface-to-air missile sites, early warning sites, key communication nodes. Located up on the slide to my left, you'll see many of them, most of them are in the western part of the country. That's where those critical nodes are located, and that's why we targeted them there. But it does give us the ability, specifically with taking down the long-range surface-to-airs, the SA-5s, taking them down, and then the C2 architecture that goes with that opens up as broad a space as possible for the no-fly zone.
Tony?
Just on the missiles themselves, these are those new generation tactical Tomahawks?
It was a mixture of our old Tomahawks and the newer tactical Tomahawk.
The new ones allow you to loiter over airspace and take pictures actually before they drop in?
Not pictures. They give us the ability to loiter, and then we can shoot them a target, and they will go to the target. But in this particular mission, we use them as we have just as one of the older Tomahawks.
Well, they're clearing the airspace basically for the non-stealthy fighters to go in or for jammers to go in?
They allow us to penetrate a high, what we would call a medium to high threat without putting air crew at risk. Create the conditions for manned aircraft.
And has the no-fly zone enforcement begun, and what coalition members will enforce that? Will U.S. jets be in the air enforcing?
At this point, we are creating the conditions to be able to set up the no-fly zone. And once we have established and confirmed that the conditions are right, then we will move forward into the next one of the next phases of the campaign.
So it has not yet begun enforcement.
That's a tough one to say based on how you call. Do we have airplanes patrolling over Libya to enforce the no-fly zone? No, ma'am, we do not. But I would say we are beginning that because we're setting the conditions to be able to reach that state.
Chris.
Admiral, will Colonel Gaddafi's tanks and heavy artillery also be targeted going forward?
I'm not. I'm going to have to limit my discussion today to the actions that were taken thus far, and I'm not going to be able to discuss potential future operations.
Kevin.
Admiral, you said that protecting the population of Benghazi was one of the goals, but I don't see that as one of the strike targets on your map. Why is that?
That's correct, and that's where I was talking about where are the critical nodes of that integrated air and missile defense system. At this particular point, Gaddafi is predominantly lives in Tripoli, and you'll see that's where the most robust IADs are. But the no-fly zone that we want to enforce encompasses both east and west, and so we went after that first, this wave after the most critical part.
So will the second wave then go to Benghazi?
I'm not going to talk about future operations.
Jennifer.
Are U.S. forces required, or have they been used to help with the targeting on the ground? Have U.S. forces been on the ground to help with the targeting?
There's been no U.S. forces on the ground to do the targeting. We don't require people on the ground to develop the targets for the target.
Elizabeth.
Can you tell us what submarines and ships the missiles came from, U.S.?
I'm going to have to provide you at another time. I don't have that in front of me right now, ma'am.
Just to be clear, there are no U.S. aircraft involved at this point.
No U.S. aircraft over land at this time, no, ma'am.
And no involved in airstrikes right now?
Not at this particular time, no, ma'am.
Admiral, are any U.S. aircraft providing refueling support for any aircraft involved in this?
I would anticipate that we will be providing that. You know, we bring unique capabilities in command and control and logistics. So part of that, we bring a very large tanker force to do that, and we will be contributing that now and in the future.
Larry.
When did this start in relation to when the French launched their fighter jets? Was this after they had launched, before they launched? Do you anticipate launches will continue? And when you talk about critical nodes, is Gaddafi's upper echelon command and control considered a critical node of his air defense?
First question.
When did the Tomahawks first get launched in comparison to when the French?
It was after the French flew their particular missions. The Tomahawks were launched. About a time of flight of about an hour from launch to impact. First impact was at 1500 Eastern Standard Time. I'm not going to answer the second question because it deals to future operations. And your last question
was when you talked about you were targeting command and control, or critical nodes. Is Gaddafi's upper echelon command and control considered one of those critical nodes that you attacked?
No, we're focusing on this command and control of the integrated air and missile defense system.
Yeah.
I think I anticipate, but do the U.S. intend to participate to the no-fly zone with attack aircraft?
I'm not at liberty to talk potential future operations.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me which Arab nations are part of the Allied partners?
Right now, of the coalition, the countries that have asked us to mention their names, of course, the U.S., UK, French, Italy, and Canada. The other countries have asked for them. They want to be able to make the announcement, and it's the same for the Arab countries as well. We're going to go ahead and let them make the announcement.
Greg, you have anything?
No, I'm okay.
Louis?
Sir, there are also electronic planes that can do electronic jamming of integrated missile sites. Was that technology used during these strikes?
For this particular strike, what we would call that support package of electronic attack was not required in order to get the cruise missiles into their targets.
Is that AWACS? Is that what you mean for that?
Well, we have aircraft that jam electronics, the early warning JCI. We haven't had to use those. That's one of the benefits of using the Tomahawk cruise missiles.
And what was the purpose of the French mission over the house? in relation to...
I'm not here. I'm not able to speak to the French mission objectives.
Yes.
Total number of targets again?
It'll be over 20 targets.
Jim?
How will you assess the damage to this? Will you send like a global hawk or satellite imagery from this to...
Yeah, a bomb damage assessment is going to take a little bit. You know, after being in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, where we have Predators, Reapers, full motion video, we don't have that in this in the contested airspace. So that's why we had to drop the IADs in order to do that. We'll be able to use a global hawk now that once we have confirmed that the SA-5s are down, and then we'll use the traditional national technical means.
Have you know?
I just want to be clear, this is a U.S.-led operation, but in the hours leading up today, there's been communications or talk to try to talk that down.
We are on the leading edge of coalition operations where the United States, under General Ham, in Africa Command, is in charge. He's in command of this at this point, and in the coming days, we intend to transition it to a coalition command.
Elizabeth?
Can you specify how many British ships were involved compared to the U.S. ships?
We had one British submarine.
And the rest were all U.S.?
Yes, ma'am.
And the number of that?
I don't have that in front of me in the exact numbers, but...
Let's just take a couple more minutes here. Tony?
How sophisticated was this air defense system compared to Iraq's, Iran's, and even going back to Vietnam? I mean, you study these systems, and I think the public would like a sense of that.
This is an integrated air and missile defense system, much like the one that Iraq had and it surrounded Baghdad, built on older Soviet technology, but still good capability.
On two things, the bomb damage assessment, do you have a rough idea? Will that take hours or days?
I would say between hours and days.
And is it fair
It's going to take us anywhere from 6 to 12 hours to get this based on assessing whether or not the SA-5 sites are down, that we could then move Global Hawk in, and then the other national technical means to collect and then assess.
Is it fair to say that the no-fly zone enforcement probably won't begin until the bomb damage assessment is complete?
I'm not able to talk about specifics of future operations.
More hands as we go on. So let's try to get control of this. Let's do Chris and Matthew and Nathan, and then we're done.
Would you, Admiral, would you consider this period that we're in right now to be a pause in that no more strikes are going on until the assessment?
No, we're in the first phase of a multi-phase operation. So I wouldn't specifically call it a pause.
So strikes are continuing even before the assessment?
It's the first phase of a multi-phase operation.
Matthew?
At this point, you said it was a U.S.-led operation, but at which level and how do you coordinate with coalition partners? Is it in Stuttgart?
Yes, within Africa Command, and then on Mount Whitney, on where the JTF commander is, we have our coalition partners embedded into the staff that help do with the planning, execution, and assessment of the coalition operations. Much like we do around the world.
I think I promised that Nathan would be the last one.
Admiral, could you just give us a sense of the total number of ships that are attached to this JTF Odyssey Dawn, or the number of U.S. vessels versus coalition?
I apologize. I should have that information, and I don't have it in front of me, and we're going to have to get that for you. But we'll be able to provide that.